Distraction. This is the second part of a trilogy on attention, distraction, and freedom. In the first part, we focused on attention. Now, what's the natural antagonist of attention? It's distraction. Let's look at how our attention gets distracted. How does this work? My name is Roman, and I build eye trackers at Viewpoint System. To be honest, I wanted to record this video 3 months ago, but I got distracted. In the first part on attention, we discussed the 4 major components of the system that guides our conscious attention. Attention is a complex interplay between working memory, competitive selection, top-down sensitivity control, saliency filters, and many more small components. And we saw that many of these components can be trained in order to improve focused attention. This training will be one of our tools against distraction. Remember that attention is the concentration of awareness on some phenomenon to the exclusion of other stimuli. And again, distraction is the natural antagonist of attention. It's the process of diverting the attention of an individual or group from a desired area of focus and thereby blocking or diminishing the reception of desired information. There are several kinds of distractions that perturb our attention at different points in this circuit. Competitive selection, which is the component that balances focus with openness, is very susceptible to cognitive overload and tiredness, but also a lack of interest or discipline will sabotage our ability to stay on topic and keep refocusing our attention. The result is that we drift away from a topic and get distracted by whatever pops up next. And whatever pops up next may be, for example, a daydream, so that's an image that is generated internally, or it may be something from outside of ourselves that pierces our saliency filters. This is one very common path to distraction. We exhaust the competitive selection and then drift towards something else that can come from the inside or from the outside. But we can also get distracted when we're not tired or overloaded. So-called abrupt onset distractors can distract our attention even when we're fully in the focus zone. Loud noises, flashing lights, or surprising movements are examples of such abrupt onset distractors, and they pull us very reliably out of our focus. This is important for survival in an antagonistic world, but it's also being abused by people and technology in order to catch our attention. It's important to know that distractions are difficult to control top-down. I cannot make a conscious decision not to get distracted. This is important. Rather, I need to understand the process of how we get distracted and then modify my environment and my habits in order to achieve this goal of limiting distractibility. You may be wondering why we are interested in distractions at Viewpoint System. We build eye trackers, and remember that gaze control is a central component of the attention circuit. Eye tracking can detect when you get distracted, and we build tools to understand what humans do. Let's look at a simple and practical example of a distraction that affects most of us. Our attention or ability to focus is affected by our surroundings. And you are probably aware that smartphones are a huge factor in our surroundings and distract us very often. And indeed, recent research finds that even just carrying a smartphone in my pocket affects my cognitive capacity and attention. Think of this effect as related to what I said about the small size of our working memory. The task of not looking at my phone is always present in the working memory. And it's enough to weaken my cognitive capacity and thus make me more distractible. Of course, there are large differences in how people experience distractions. We like some distractions and we try to avoid others. The central part in understanding my habits of getting distracted is to observe how distractions influence my mood. Do I feel better if I'm cognitively loaded or unloaded? People differ dramatically in this aspect, and the preference for cognitive unloading will make distractions more pleasant. The process of unfocusing on one topic and refocusing on a distraction can feel like a reward. Other aspects of preferences are: do I prefer novelty or familiarity? Do I prefer speed or slowness? Do I prefer inner attention or outer attention? These preferences indicate how our attention circuit is connected to the brain's reward circuit, which has a huge effect on our distractibility. The term distractions is often seen as negative, but subjectively we perceive them very differently. Which aspects of my attention circuit give me pleasure? Is it the parts that invite more distraction, or is it the parts that counter distraction? Much self-observation is required to see these dynamics clearly, and you can start today by noticing how you react to specific kinds of distractions. Do they make you feel good or not? But if distractions can be so rewarding, then why can't we just allow them in and enjoy them? There are several important reasons for reducing distractions. One of them is that task switching is costly. Staying on topic saves energy. And related to this, the unloading and reloading of the working memory is slow and error prone. And so staying longer on one topic is beneficial for keeping error rates low. And reducing distractions can lengthen our attention timescale because distractions shorten the attention timescale. So in one phrase, we reduce distractions in order to go farther with less effort. All right, if you're anything like me, then you're convinced to start reducing distractions. But how? From the previous slides, it becomes clear that our environment has a huge effect on our distractibility. Luckily, understanding some of these mechanisms of distraction allow us to counter them very practically. We need to understand our environment and then make conscious decisions to modify it. Here's a short list of ideas that I try to implement in my life in order to reduce distractions and enable more focused attention. I try to remove abrupt onset distractions. This is an obvious one. I wear noise-canceling headphones. I switch off all message notifications, sounds, and pop-ups. I don't sit with the back towards a doorway, etc. I'm sure there are simple modifications you can implement too. Then I try to simplify the environment. I work in areas where there is no noise, no background talking, specific music or no music at all. I clean up the work desk. I use full screen windows. And I try not to multitask because I must admit I cannot multitask. The best I can do is a rapid switching back and forth between tasks, sort of sequential multitasking. And as we've seen, this task switching is slow, costly, and error prone. Further, a very important environmental factor is to pay attention to the exposure of our saliency filters, a sort of saliency filter hygiene. To keep these filters strong, I minimize my exposure to social media, for example. Social media often play with our attention and reward circuits, and I don't allow this kind of manipulation. Lastly, we can try to train our top-down control a bit, after all. Learning to hold the focus and learning to stay calm while focusing are more abstract goals, but often direct my efforts. Your needs are probably a bit different, but the principles remain. And with this in mind, I look forward to presenting the third part of this series, where we combine attention and distraction to approach the question of how we can achieve a bit of freedom of our will.